Welcome back to the Sling TSI Build update. This week I worked on the empennage and the wing fairings and a few other miscellaneous things. Pretty happy with how the empennage fairing turned out. I think I did not do any modification to the fiberglass. This is exactly how it came out of the box. And I've got, just a little bit of a gap here and there, but I don't know how, other than putting, and even on these, even putting more screws in, I don't think would help a whole lot. Very secure, and I think it looks pretty good. My paint shop, I'll ask them if they think it needs to, if there's some magic they could do to help it out. But for the most part, I'm pretty happy. I did have a bad rivnut. I don't know if I over pulled it or if it was just a bad rivnut. So I had to drill this out I had a screw stuck in it. It seemed like it was misthreaded. And I do put epoxy on these, but I don't think it was epoxy that got into the threads. I think I either put too much force on the rivnut, or it was a bad rivnut. So I had to drill it out. Actually, I had to cut the screw out. Then I had to drill it out. And what I ended up doing was just moving it slightly, so that I just filled in the hole with superfill, and I redid the rivnut here. To fill in where the rivnut was, I put a piece of aluminum. I glued it in with epoxy, and then I filled the top in the aluminum with superfill as well. So one little issue, you waste some time. Rivnuts are just not fun to remove. So anyway, pretty happy with that. I got started with the wing fairings, and basically what you see here is what is in the manual for the number of holes and rivnuts that you'll put in. And I've been looking at pictures of completed Sling TSIs from like Midwest Sky Sports and some others. And they're putting a lot more rivnuts in here. Like they'll put one in between, so they've got 28, whereas I've got, 15 or 16. So I think basically what they're doing is they're just putting them, this is what the factory calls out, and then they're going back and putting more. And I think that's just an effort to tighten these up a little bit more. I've got tape on there, but you can see it's pulled away a little bit. So I think I'm going to go ahead and I'll just measure in between each of my two clecos here, and I'll put another one in. It's a lot of extra time and effort. I really hate rivnuts, but I think it would help tighten up some of these to put them on. So that's the other thing I'm working on. And I wanted to talk about this SB14 that came up in Facebook, and it was talking about these are the 4.8 millimeter rivets that come in sort of at the root of closest to the plane body, the fuselage. Let me go around the other side. So SB14, and it was revised at some point, came out in 2019. And depending on which plane you have, that service bulletin affects all Sling models except for the high wing. And what it's concerning is these rivets right here, the 4.8 millimeter rivets for all the planes. For the TSI, what it wants you to do is inside the bottom where these rivets attach to the main spar carry through that's up underneath the plane here. You won't be able to see it if I get under the plane. But I think the service bulletin says 61 rivets or something. What they want you to do is use stainless steel rivets for those. And that's all the TSI wants. If you have the Sling 2 or the Sling 4, they basically want you to change out all the 4.8s. And I think it was like 230 rivets because you got to do top and bottom on both wings. So it's a fair number of rivets. But there was some confusion. That's an old service bulletin. Hopefully everybody's read it. My kit came with stainless steel rivets, and underneath the plane, connected to the main spar carry-through on both sides, I installed stainless steel rivets as per the service bulletin. And I used tank sealant as a anti-corrosive because you're mixing stainless steel and aluminum. So anytime you have dissimilar metals, you want to make sure you protect the metals from touching each other as much as possible. You can also use some other materials, and it's spelled out in the service bulletin. So the question was, somebody didn't know that the rivets in their kit were for that service bulletin because there's not an instruction that calls out those rivets when you're riveting the main spar carry through. So they had asked that question to Sling Technical and to the Facebook group. And Sling Technical came back and said, follow the KIA for the Sling High Wing. And the Sling High Wing instructions have you replacing all of these rivets with stainless steel. But of course, that's for new builds, not for removing these rivets and replacing them, but they just want you to use stainless steel rivets here. So there was some back and forth discussion, and I actually I emailed the parts guy, Scott, with Sling North America, and went back and forth with email with him. And he emailed the factory with what my question was and got an answer. And I'll post that up here, the email I got back. But basically what they're saying is that if you have already installed these, don't undo them. All they want you to do is the main spar carry through under the center bottom of the plane. That's what the service bulletin is carrying for. If you have not installed these rivets and your tank is not on the wing yet, then they're going to recommend that you make these stainless steel going forward. And they said they're going to be updating the KIAI going forward for the TSI. They're about to update it, and moving forward, they're going to call out stainless steel rivets for these 4.8 millimeter rivets coming out from the fuselage. So if that makes sense. So like in my plane, my wing is done, the tank's installed. You can't get to all of these easily. And I'm actually worried that if I tried to drill all these out, I would end up damaging the skin, because this is a lot of rivets, and these are big rivets. And then you've got all that debris that's falling behind the tank that you'd have to fish out. And I'm afraid I would never get all that debris out of there unless you remove the whole tank. And if you remove the whole tank, that's a lot of rivets. And I think you're risking damaging the skin. So I've decided I'm not gonna go down that road. Sling is not telling you to go down that road. The fact that they're changing how they do this makes me think that they are worried that you could get some smoking rivets, I think is what they call it, where these can crack your paint over time because of a little looseness or vibration causing some issues. So I think they're trying to head that off moving forward, and that's why it's on the high wing instructions. So I don't know if that makes any sense to you guys. So basically the service bulletin calls out is the main spar carry through using stainless steel. If your plane is already in the shape that mine is in, you just leave the wings as they are. If you have not built the wing and installed it, and these rivets are not in place, then they would recommend you changing them out to the 4.8 millimeter stainless steel rivets. Hopefully that's a good summary. So mine's gonna stay like it is. I did do the stainless steel when I put the skins on the bottom. on the main spar carry through. And I used tank sealant, as I said. So that's a summary of what I did. For my situation, that's what I'm going to do moving forward. But there was a bunch of back and forth. There was a whole bunch of comments on that Facebook post, so I thought I would address it. And one more little fun thing I was going to show you. I got another little thing back from the embroidery shop that I'll show you here in a second. So it's kind of dark back here, but this is the baggage extension. And so I had this, it's basically a really big patch with Velcro on it. And then I had it embroidered. And so it has the max weight listed, but then it just keeps stuff from falling back in here. So if you were to have something here, you wouldn't want it to roll back, especially if it was heavy, and mess up your center of gravity. So I wanted to block this off somehow, and I thought of a couple different ways, but I had good luck with them making this patch and this patch. So I basically just had them make a really big patch for me. And they were able to use the Sling logo. And actually, I'll probably have a hat or something made too, now that they have this in their system. So anyway, this has just got Velcro, and then it was just embroidered. So it's a little fun. It's not necessary, but it was fun, and I thought I'd show it off. Well, that's it for this week. You guys take care, and good luck on your builds.